Hey guys, what's cracking? Godsman here, coming at you with another discussion video. So Divinez Season 3 aired its final episode in mid-April 2025. Now, since then, we've had a few weeks to process it all, and I'd say it's high time we sat down to do just that. Let's discuss how the season was, highlights and lowlights included. In this video, I'll be going over various points of the season, whether it be the beginning to its very conclusion, looking over the plot, characters, fights, and other auxiliary elements which played a part in making the season one to remember. I'll be expressing my own thoughts as well as the general sentiments of the community at various points too, so definitely expect a lot of opinions here. And if you're new to the channel and want more Vanguard content, then subscribe and push that handy dandy notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my videos. We're on the cusp of that 3K mark and every single subscribe helps out. So if you like this video, then feel free to help a brother out. And with that said, let's hit the trail and discuss Divinez Season 3 hype or wipe. Now, as with most good stories, we'll need to start at the beginning. Divinez Season 3 was first hinted at with the final scene of Divinez Season 2, with Michiru Hazama being revealed as both conscious, yay, and in possession of a deluxe invitation, ooh. Now, Divinez Season 2 is a somewhat controversial season, to be sure, but this was a hell of a cherry on top to this Neapolitan Sunday. Hype for this season was absolutely astonishing, and seemingly to an unprecedented degree. As a content creator myself, I had some first-hand experience with this. After all, my most popular video series on this channel has to be my reaction series, which went from the middle Overdress to continuing all the way to current Divinez. And this scene's reveal, might I say, held a hype that none of the previous seasons had up until this point, at least in the standard era of Vanguard anime. Whether it was the trailer dropping, character bios being revealed, new units like Artisaria or retrains like Bafsaga Aksaya being revealed, or even the countdown post showcasing gorgeous new art of our cast of characters promoting the impending start of the season, hype and discussions regarding Divinez Season 3 was pretty much always on the menu. The excitement was palpable, and the additional promotional material only added more fuel to this growing wildfire. And how could it not? Divinez Season 3, otherwise known as Divinez Deluxe Arc, had a winning formula, bringing together many of the lovable Divinez cast together to battle against a lot of the fan favorite characters from the Overdress era. Felt like bringing so many fan fiction fights and interactions to life. Characters like Midday, Reika, Megumi, despite the haters, held so much promise, and the fans just had to see them again, and see them fight. The groundwork was laid beautifully, hype had reached terminal capacity, and then the fated day arrived and the episode gets taken down due to copyright. More specifically, due to the opening meta being copyright struck despite, well, you know, Bushiroad using the thing legally. Like, come on guys, how would we not clear this with the YouTube algorithm prior? I'm sure someone at least came close to losing their job for that one. It didn't help that the folks Bushiroad outsourced his song from had a history of snubbing global viewers, and actually that brings up something else which was especially infuriating at the time, that being the episode still airing just fine in Japan. So while we sit here in copyright purgatory, Japan is sitting there enjoying the episode. I remember vividly rushing back home from the gym to explain the situation to many eager viewers and process what was happening at the time. And you know the thing? I feel bad for Bushiroad in this situation, just a bit. Sure, you could say that they could have outsourced from someone different and that the miscommunication is on them, and maybe they could have tried to resolve this quicker, but ultimately, I find most of the negligence to be with the other parties involved, at least as much as Bushiroad themselves, yet it's them that have to suffer the greatest brunt of the humiliation, and for a season they spent so much time and effort hyping up. But hey, these things happen, right? At least the episode was pretty good, right? And yes, it was. Although the only fight we had of the episode was a short yet sweet one between Akina and Hikari, this episode provided a lot. The opening sequence between Rezile and Vaisrug was dramatic and eye-catching. The opening, despite the crap show, is still arguably the best in all of Divinez. The slice-of-life moments were great, a couple which actually spawned into memorable memes like Vaito Vaito, and of course the fan service at the end where the writers all but confirmed the Aki Now ship was set to sail. It was pretty close to perfect, but there was a blemish worth mentioning: the subtitles. The subs throughout this season were mostly fine, but occasionally they had some weird, if not downright cringe translations on screen, and episode 1 arguably takes the cake here with this line from Hikari, which makes me wonder if this truly took place in Japan and not Alabama. Yikes, dude. but at least the fight forcing Hikari to eat the dreaded celery made up for it, but still, the subtitles did occasionally end up being a lowlight of the season, which hurts. So then, with that overview alone, you could already see that Divine Season 3 has both some sour and some sweet notes to it. Next, in order to get into the season proper, we're going to have to tackle things in a more focused light, starting with the plot. So to absolutely no one's surprise, the plot isn't going to require much explanation here. The story still follows our main character, of course, Akina Myoudo, this time as he embarks on his journey through Deluxe, a prestigious Vanguard tournament which aims to crown the strongest fighter. Now, one of Akina's strongest motivators is from his fight with Kagatsu in Episode 2, and the subsequent question posed to him, why do you play Vanguard? Akina ponders this question all throughout the Deluxe tournament. He also in the process gets a new mascot in the form of a hippogriff. No, it's not a griffin, I think. Anyway, this hippo, griffin, whatever they call it, is gonna spend the whole arc playing hard to get with him until he gets enticed by his own theme song and comes to save the day in the final fight, but more on that later. Much of this arc is more character driven than anything, with the plot more so serving as a vehicle for these characters to clash on the stage of Deluxe, which, not gonna lie, seems about right for a card fight anime. Still, it feels fairly natural. The final fight gives a lot of payoff for the setup, and overall does its job, so I'd say the plot is right where it needs to be, a simple premise with good payoff and enjoyable moments. The community doesn't generally examine the plot of this arc from what I've seen, which reinforces what I've noted here. On a final note, this season is pretty clearly a setup for the next season, which will segue into Season 4's top 8 battles of the tournament, and most likely reveal any greater plot points brewing in the background. But enough about that, how about them characters though? This is going to be a pretty beefy section, as I'm going to take a look at all of our Deluxe participants and give my thoughts on each of them. I'll also note their fights as we go along to be concise. So Akina will kick things off for us, and to be honest, he's about as great as he's always been. No cap, Akina kicks butt and is one of the best protagonists I've seen in Vanguard history. I thoroughly enjoyed him in Season 1, and although Season 2 was a bit more middling, he still remains true to his own self and had some great moments there as well, so overall, no downgrades from what I could see. Now comes Season 3 and we get a bit of an exploration to how his character progresses from this point. My favorite element to Akina's character this season is just how poignant the premise is. You have to realize this kid barely started playing Vanguard, and the moment he did, he needed to learn to play Vanguard in order to save his little sister, and then subsequently save the world in Season 2's case. Yeah, I know, kind of a jump, but that's how it happened. After all that, why does he play Vanguard actually? Shoot, now that Hikari is cured, what the heck will he do with his life in general, which he paid very little attention to while he was caring for her? These questions really humanize Akina as a person and feel like the most natural progression of his character. The Mythic and Miracles Rifistor acts as a symbol of his growth, which fluctuates over the course of his games. Him being damage checked as a way of showing that Akina is still not ready is downright brilliant, translating the card fight action into the narrative. Heck, it reminds me of a Kai quote about units going to the damage zone being a sign of them retreating from the battle. Anyways, the season finale was a treat to watch. Akina declaring his admiration of Now Senpai is heartwarming, and it makes their relationship, be it as friends or something more, mind you, that much more compelling. I mean, honestly, even if this wasn't a ship, this would still be one of the best sensei-mentor relationships that I've seen. His desire to go pro like Now is a bit interesting, however, as this is a goal shared by his mentor and many of the fighters here. Now, on one hand, it's sensible. Given his current role models in play and lack of a personal goal, not to mention incentivizes him to actually win Deluxe now, I can see why Akina would do as they do and want to become a pro. On the other hand, it did feel a tad lukewarm hearing that after all this build-up. Perhaps I was expecting something a lot more awe-inspiring and unique, but nah, this was still pretty cool. Oh, and I just gotta say it, this fight has one of my favorite turns in all of Divines, no cap. That being when Rifistor finally responds to Akina. Between the never before heard theme song that is an absolute bop, might I say, and the epic scene of Rezile summoning Rifistor from Vastrug's own Moongate like a boss, this moment was just pure cinema, might I say. Overall, Akina continues to grow into a fantastic character and a fine young card fighter. Seeing him progress and take on every situation earnestly as he always does is his strong point as a protagonist, and the writers did quite well to get our boy onto the next stage in his story. So next up we have Now Senpai. Now, her performance is a bit more controversial. After all, she only has one on-screen full fight, and this fight is one of the best of the season. I mean, straight up, this fight with Etica is a whole heap of fun. between the dialogue, the action, the character interactions. There's so much to love here. Also, the fact that this fight is one of the biggest sources of ship bait and has the iconic smug Etica face, and that this fight also was aired on Valentine's Day was low-key intentional, might I say. Nice work there, Bushiroad. That was very well done. On the other hand, though, her other fights are all partial or fully off-screen losses, and her not being able to progress into the top 8 made many fans concerned about her relevance in the future narrative. Now, I want to dissuade those worries because I fully expect her to still play a big role. I mean, come on, she's like the fan favorite character in Divinez. She's certainly the most marketable, might I say. That said, it'll have to be relative to whatever the larger narrative at hand is rather than the tournament here. Now was a good character this season, though. Her major fight was a big moment, and her conversation regarding Varga Drag Race, the adoption of Rasetsu, and a speech on what it means to be unparalleled was legitimately awesome and a season highlight in my books. It's too bad she lost a lot and didn't progress, but I personally think they did right by her despite losing the lottery to Etica. And actually, that's a perfect segue, so let's go ahead and talk about Etica now. So going into the season, I had anticipated Etica making it into Top Cut. In fact, I personally theorized that she'd win the whole dang tournament. This is because of her newly established life as Etica and her desire to make an identity for herself. This is some compelling stuff, so I was rooting for her to make her dream a reality. But holy crap. I was not expecting it to be so rough, dude. I mean, she gets smacked around by both Now and Midday like she was yesterday's lunch and barely beat Gui and gets in only to sheer literal luck. The writers were high-key pretty harsh with Etica here. They were pulling no punches. But the thing is, that's the point here. Etica has a hard path ahead, so many tough competitors around her, and on top of that, the burden of living up to the Anchor Bolt legacy, it is tough stuff. Bear in mind, by the way, that Akina made his resolve to go pro during his final fight just before progressing to Top Cut. Meanwhile, Etica had this resolve from the jump and had to deal with all these setbacks. Getting the invite only because Taizo handed it down to her likely already gives a feeling of imposter syndrome for Etica. But see, just like the hero of her own story, overcoming adversity is the key to her ultimate success. And given the events of Season 1 and Season 2, Etica is in her element when she's got a wall to climb. Girl has grit, and win or lose, she'll fight to the very end of the coming seasons. Good stuff. Oh, and gonna call it here, Amorta is so getting a retrain in set 10 or something. Etica is gonna need it badly just to keep up in this upcoming season, and that goes double for us poor TCG players. Seriously, Amorta fans, stay strong. Now, Etica is a super compelling character, be it from a serious side or even from a joking side. I mean, smug Etica just rules, right, guys? But if there's one character who could potentially surpass her in both of these categories, it would be Suo. Now, Suo is my boy, perhaps my favorite character this whole freaking season. His transformation since Season 1 is like the most perfect thing and comes back full circle this season where his newfound passion and appreciation of his friends leads him to reach out to Suzue Rokuin, who's in a similar pace in her life to where Suo was. She's a truly hollow person. His efforts to reach out to her are admirable and heartwarming, and when he eventually breaks through to her in their fight, and kind of literally given the fight action on display, might I say, it's like the most gratifying moment all season, bar none. It's a great contender for best fight of the season, in fact, and this is a lot of folks' favorites, so that's not a hot take, might I say. The only blemish for this fight is that when it first aired, the subtitles were not available for the first few hours, meaning once again, we had to deal with an extra wait. And given that the episode also was after a 1-week hiatus, aka we're waiting 2 weeks, you can imagine the subs being down was a bona fide bruh moment. This ended up getting memed on as Blankfire Nexus gaining the ability to return even the subtitles to 0. So again, Bushiroad really has both the best and the worst timing of these things. Wow. Anyway, back to Suo. He's also just freaking hilarious, dude. Like, do you realize that this man is the meme that keeps on memeing? He gives us fight for fighto, and his desire to fight just leads to these really funny scenes where the other characters don't know how to deal with his card fight hobo ways. He's great when serious too, though. Every time this dude spoke to Suzune, it was fire, just straight up facts, yo. I could geek out more, but for the sake of time, I'll rate him fighto out of fighto. And since we mentioned her already, let's go ahead and talk about Suzune next. Now, while Suo is, in my humble personal opinion, the best character this season, Fighto, I gotta say that as a community, y'all really poured the love out for Suzune here, and y'all are based AF for that, because Suzune is great. The entire season, it felt agonizing to watch this girl be oppressed by her family's standards and forced to fight like a cold machine, devoid of both desire and personality. It was heartbreaking for her brother, might I say. The rhythm motif is a great allegory for her state of mind, and on a side note feels somewhat reminiscent of Urara's affinity for sound. Heck, even Midday to an extent due to her sensitivity to sound. Guess that's just a running theme here. Huh. Anyway, from the get-go, we saw the writing on the wall that Suo, having been there before too, would be the one to shatter the chains for familiar obligation, which, to reiterate, actually happened during the fight choreography, so major points for that. That was awesome. Despite seeing it coming a mile away, the writers did well to ease into Suo's desire to help Suzune. They didn't rush this. At first, he simply observed before coming to chat a little here and there, and then when their fight came, he really went for it. And her resolve to stand up to her mother was the very best part of that fight. It felt like at the very end, man, I was rooting for her so much, and it honestly turned out way better than I expected. Thank God. And of course, I just gotta say, artist Saria as her Vanguard is just so rad and pitch perfect. Her aesthetic, oppressive control style via lock, and the theme song that plays on her final turns really add to this contradiction between who she is and how she's forced herself to fight. Just another great example of the card fight pertaining to what's happening off the table. Although her character did not progress into Stage 2 Deluxe, I fully expect Suzune to play more of a role in the future, whether that be due to her ties to the Rokuin family or just in cute slice of life moments with the gang. Suzune should stick around for a while, and I'd want nothing less than our new cinnamon roll here, or I guess caramel in this case, because she has an entire jar of caramel. That might be a diabetes issue. Anyway, Kagatsu is, well, he's really weird. I mean, this guy seriously fluctuates a lot, and public opinion also fluctuates with him. When the promotional material first landed, folks didn't really think too much of him. Heck, they even joked that he was like the cooler Kuon or something. Then he's introduced proper in episode 1 and straight up asked Akina now if they're a thing, which was wild and made folks like him a lot more. Not the best reason maybe, but hey, I don't judge. Then his fight with Akina actually happens, and it is what you would expect, with Akina coming at Kagatsu with all his might only to be humbled, as the poor lad is introduced to a new level of power in the series. This fight does have a nice twist though, with Akina having to see Kagatsu utilizing the concept of deck compression, and spinning it as creating miracles, which was a baller line and really cool to display for someone like Akina and his fighting style. So points for him there. Although, on a minor note, I wasn't completely sold on his theme song in this fight. It just felt like a jump. But don't worry, I'm mentioning it here because it gets better later. He then gives Akina a Mythish card, which really solidifies his role as both a mentor and also the goal at the end of the season for Akina. Can I just say, by the way, that Kagatsu has this really dark line implying that him asking why Akina plays Vanguard is a potentially lethal question, and had us all concerned that there was some big menacing plot point lurking. Like, dude, I thought Akina was about to get put into the ground or something, but it turns out that the only thing hitting the ground was Kagatsu's character due to the crash out. Ah yes, the infamous episode 10 of this season, where we learned that the big thing weighing on Kagatsu's heart was a girl. Now, we got hints of that in certain shots before, but just when you'd expect him to quit the Pro League for something major, like her untimely death or some sort of slow burn love story which shatters his heart irrevocably, it's nothing of the sort. Nah, dude fought this girl, who was admittedly pretty cute, only once, got beat up and rizzed up on accident, then trained to defeat her, only to find her long gone when he comes back. No phone number, no messages, nada. My boy Kagatsu became the victim of what I like to call the one fight stand. Bro crashes out so hard over this, quitting competitive Vanguard as a whole and dipping out to become a card fight teacher in some backwater place. Now, as I've explained this, it becomes pretty clear that Kagatsu's backstory, well, it's kind of lame. I mean, he's hung up on this for years, for something so relatively minor that it kind of makes his character look like a joke. But the thing is, I'm actually going to defend it a little bit, right? Like, I kind of get it. This guy was a teenager. He's still really impressionable and was on the rise. Emotions and the first signs of love are a hell of a drug, and sometimes people just lose all motivation inside of themselves for seemingly small reasons. We're just kind of unstable like that sometimes. Thankfully, Kagatsu was able to realize his folly and kick his depressive cycle to the curb when he fights Akina during the rematch, seeing this young man rise up despite every setback and seize hold of his future. The future being the operative word here, as Kagatsu was stuck dwelling on the past. This fight was also really sick and showed off just how cool Vaseruk is as a deck, riding Vaseruk himself and then calling out both Mythishes in succession to absolutely demolish Akina and put him on the edge right away on turn 3 was a sight to behold. This turn in particular also redeemed Kagatsu's theme song for me because the added bits, especially the rock and roll percussion, made this a banger. And then his reaction at the edit season is just hilarious. Dude finally gets his act together. He finally decides, you know what, I don't need to look after Ruka anymore. I can do my own thing. And then Ruka, the very cause of his crash out, arrives on the scene as another of the top 8 alongside him, basically ripped up out of the cardboard cutout and handed to him wrapped up like a Christmas present. The irony here feels so intentional, and I appreciate the writing team for that. This was a moment. I'm not sure what to expect next with Kagatsu's character. He's cool in some areas and sort of hard to jive with in others. I think I'm inclined to stay on the fence for this for now, despite how much of the community more or less relegating his character to Crash Out and Moonman memes. I am 100% sure, however, that he'll get a shot to fight Ruka in Deluxe. I mean, if that fight doesn't happen after all this setup, I'm pretty sure the Bushiroad writing team would have to duck for cover from the rapid fire clowning coming from the inevitably angry community. Oh, and speaking of clowns, let's talk about Reika next. Oh, what? You thought I was going to show some mercy here just because he was one of my favorite Overdress characters and played my favorite Overdress deck, Youthbrook? Ha! Think again, dude. Reika was done hella dirty, and he needs to put on that rainbow afro wig and that clown nose, because dude is a fraud. And it's such an effing shame, too, that I gotta do this to him. I mean, my guy was one of my faves, and the dude looked so immaculate at first. Clean fit, great smile for that character growth, a shot of him in the opening running to catch up to Bichu, which was super compelling and cool. Reika was on a mission, and we were all aboard that hype train. Now, his first match was against Kagatsu, the de facto final boss of this season. It was going to be a great fight, a perfect showcase of the second Mythish, and of course the tasty new Youthbrook cards, which were about due relative to Set 8's release schedule anyway. The moment was here. Then this happened. His first fight was freaking off-screened, and he lost it to boot. This was shameful. Man got jobbed without a chance to see the action. This already spelled trouble for Reika, but the hope seemed to still be there as the fight with Akina promised to be different, especially with that moment where homie was sitting in there with the demon timer on or something. Then Akina versus Reika happened, and it starts great. Reika feels strong here. His new ride light looks fantastic, and the ride animation to Skyfall rebuild and subsequent speech are all epic stuff. Then he revolve forms into his brand new revolve form Exist, which turns out to be better Bull Blast. Yep, just better Full Blast. As a Youthbrook main, this crap was a gut punch from Bushiroad. We waited so long and gritted our teeth after Full Blast. We just wanted Youthbrook to be great again for Criminity's sake and feel like its original version, a varied deck that used different revolve forms as a toolbox. Instead, we got a deck that is somehow more brain dead than Full Blast, telling you to throw your rainbow colored edgelord copies in the trash can in favor of 4 shiny new copies of this Pissburk. And I don't just call it Pissburk because he's yellow and I'm pissed at him. Oh no. Prepare yourself because I'm going to abuse my powers as creator of this video and go on a TCG side tangent. So if you're not there for this, then definitely skip out from this. Just go an extra 30 seconds or something like that. Anyway, somehow, in their infinite wisdom, Bushiroad managed to make this deck a downgrade to its previous variation. You heard me right. Exist is arguably worse than Full Blast Turbo. Why is that? Well, Skyfall Rebuild is a big reason why. This thing lacks the axe scale of Youthbrook, meaning it can't deck filter, it's more vulnerable to field control, and it has less synergy with your discard targets. Sure, it discards during the battle phase to give a drive, but we already had Sequana for that. This wasn't worth it. Full Blast Turbo also deck compressed more and had access to Fergosa, making you have more card advantage, this is huge, and likely to sack triggers more often. If that wasn't enough, Exist and Grade 2 Youth costing Energy Blast choked you out from running good Energy Blast support cards like Brady Arc and Gaslightless Dragon. What a disappointment, man. Okay, TCG tangent over. Hope y'all are still with me. Reika at least manages to defeat Akina here, and it was pretty glorious, albeit it did feel a tad derivative of his first fight with Yugioh, which also saw him sucker punching the pro tag before they could ride up to the win condition. It's a pretty cool fight, don't get me wrong, but I just kind of had to point that out because it feels a little bit like the same. From there, the man gets outplayed by Kuon and loses in equally spectacular fashion. When he beat Akina up, they were gassing up Reika real hard, dude. I mean, the glazing was like more than a freaking donut shop here. They was acting like he was going to be impossible to beat, only for Kuon here to throw just a couple Midday markers in the back row and then absolutely blast him the following turn due to, once again, lack of card advantage. And this ending bit here, I mean, this just sums it up, right? Clopey clowns this man on main for scrubbing out, as she should. Side note though, I don't know how she got his number, she ain't feeling the allegations, but we'll ignore it because it ain't her season anyways. Reika was a freaking disappointment. Now, Megumi, on the other hand, she got a glow up. Girl was already off to a pretty good start thanks to her fight with Makoto in season 1 of Divinez. I mean, she was so much more chill and had the aura of a mature and respectable character there. But then season 3 comes around and we get to see a completely different side of Megumi. The beast was unleashed here. Girl talking about fisticuffs like she's a part of Fight Club or something. Now, it did seem bad for her for a moment, admittedly, because her first game was an off-screen loss to Suo, but she bounced back hella hard when she kicked Suzune's butt and then subsequently Senka's butt. Her fight with Suzune in particular showed off her voracious fighting spirit, which is a fantastic look for her, might I say, and I could hear the Megumi doubters getting hella quiet after episode 8. Funny how that happened. She also had some really cool, endearing moments as well. Her banter with the Blackout Gang, which was actually a really good, genuine chemistry between them, so I really enjoyed that for her. It felt like it was a good fit that she was the Blackout leader, and her attempts to break through to Suzune did a lot to get the ball rolling for her character, so I give her credit for that as well. Megumi was a highlight for this season. She wasn't the most important character or anything, but relative to her role, she was written beautifully. Myoudo was another highlight for a lot of folks. His awakening from the cyberspace was great, and not just for the lore, but also for the memes. Unlimited Myoudo works goes kind of hard, and all around his return felt epic, very well done. His fight with Taizo was short and sweet, but pretty well done as well. It served to display just how strong Myoudo has gotten as a player, and how terrifying Dredged Ignis is as a card, and it's also the first example of a character actually overcoming thumbnail theory. Oh, never heard of it? Well, strap in, because this is kind of a funny one. See, if you look at the thumbnails for Season 3, most of the deluxe matches have a thumbnail featuring one of the fighters for that episode's game. Interestingly, folks noticed a pattern. When these thumbnails would show off a character, that character would end up losing their game. Early examples would include Senka, Kuon, and Etica. However, just when we were on a roll, Myoudo throws on in episode 7 and was the first to break that pattern, so good on him there. Worth noting, by the way, that this theory would only get broken twice this season, with the second fight being Akina in the final fight of the season. Gotta admit though that for it being a community theory we came up with, 6 out of 8 is a hell of a batting average, so yeah, well done fellas. Anyway, Myoudo is a beast, and while he doesn't get too much action this season, his presence and lore promises much more in the coming season, as does the foreshadowing created by his growing interest in our main character Akina, the boy who can create miracles. Overall, a pretty hyped character whose best moments are yet to come. The rest of the characters here don't have as much to talk about, so I'll just shoot through them one at a time real quickly here. Midday slays. She reappears and, in epic fashion, asserts her absolute dominance as best girl, defeating the perfect AI Gui with her stellar new buff Sagada deck, going 3-0 by annihilating Etica and Now, and giving a cute little peace sign pose while doing it. Midday has come a long way, and her remembrance of Yugioh and her fight with Gui really showed that. I love Midday's performance this season, dude. Her one on-screen fight is evidently a bit formulaic in retrospect, but just the sheer spectacle of seeing her blaze through the competition, pun intended, is a treat, and honestly might be the biggest upset this season. I mean, let's be real here. Meta deck aside, who honestly expected Midday to make it a top cut over Now, much less 3-0ing in the process? Certainly not I. Having said that though, I get the sneaking suspicion she's going to run into Ruka in top 8 and be made an example of, but hey, even if that's the case, if that happens to old girl, she had a good run, so you know what, mad respect for Midday, she was great here. Gui doesn't get that same privilege. This thing just gets wiped out and never has a single on-screen win, just an off-screen one. I know none of us expected him to do too well, given that the plot almost certainly would have demanded otherwise, but it was disappointing to see him not really live up to his lore as his nigh unbeatable AI. I guess standard formats just be like that. I mean, shoot, whenever the OT comes down, skill never really is a part of the equation by that point. Though I took a quick little peek at his deck in the anime, and I wondered if he wasn't bugging out when he made that thing. It was pretty bad, so you know what? Maybe these results are a little bit more fair than I gave him credit for. Oof. Senka similarly didn't perform too well, but I actually quite liked her this season. No matter how good or bad things got, she always stayed true to her personality as a battleholic, and even got a super sweet win off of Suo despite it being off screen. I appreciate that no one here was a complete jobber this season, and I feel that the most for Senka's case, because she's simply too cool to be done that dirty. Not much to say other than please research Locke next time. You could have won that fight if you just played a little smarter there, girlfriend. Pretty disappointing, but hey, I guess it was good for Susune's sake, right? Anyway, moving on, we finally got Kuon here, the boy genius himself and the true avatar of being just a guy. The moment we saw his block, we knew Kuon was not making it. He did not have a chance in hell. I mean, his chances were potentially even worse than Gui's. Thankfully, his deck build wasn't at all that bad, and his fight with Akina was really effing peak. Seeing the Beta King and the Destiny King finally clash on screen felt like the writers were finally fulfilling an unspoken promise from Season 2 to have Kuon and this guy fight. The fight choreography is great. Akina pulling off the 7 crit divine skill is pretty peak, especially since it harkens back to his fight with Kagatsu. Seeing Imperial play in the right deck this time really redeems Kuon's screw up in Season 2, and felt like the writers actually took meta trends into consideration when making this fight. Overall, it felt like a great finals match of your locals, except with amazing voice acting and awesome, albeit brief, unit animations. After that, Kuon had one more treat for us by making the skies fall on Reika and, like Senka, refusing to be remembered as a jobber. Good job, buddy. Hope they use you again in another season. So that about wraps up my thoughts on all the relevant characters, and by extension, all the fights this season. We also discussed the plot and many of the auxiliary elements like subtitles, music, and the controversy regarding the opening. So then, it's about time I gave my final verdict. Is Divine Season 3 the hype or wipe? And the answer is hype. It's hype, y'all. Sure, it ain't perfect. The fights can be a bit formulaic, the IRL stuff at the onset was pretty whack, and some characters like Reika and Now probably left some fans salty, but there's so much to love here. We get amazing performances like Akina, Suo, Suzune, and Megumi. The new music and unit animations are really well done whenever they appear, and the setup going to Season 4 and that tense top 8 is going to keep us fans theorizing about matchups and outcomes for the coming months. This season can feel like a footnote at times, but the overall quality of it feels real good. Heck, I certainly prefer it to Season 2. Maybe it's a hot take. I don't think so though. I think Season 4, however, will play a part in how I'll end up remembering Season 3. So if the payoff for Season 4 is quite nice, then Season 3 will come out looking great as a part of this 2-season package. However, if Season 4 doesn't live up to expectations, then Season 3 may end up bearing a part of that disappointment. However, I can't see the future, so I won't comment on that. As for the here and now though, I'd rate Divine's Deluxe Arc an 8.5 out of 10. It's worth the watch and adds well to the growing success that the Divine's era has been for Vanguard. What do you all think though? Did I hit the nail on the head, or is there perhaps something that I missed that flips the script on it all? Perhaps Season 3 is secretly trash and I'm just coping. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And remember, I do a lot of Vanguard content on this channel, whether that be discussion videos like this, top 10s, anime reactions, fight nights, custom card reviews, we've got it all here. So like, comment, subscribe, and turn on that trusty bell so that you never miss out on one of my videos. And with that said, take care and God bless y'all.